The thing wearing my brother's face smiled at me from across the campfire. But my brother had been dead for 3 hours. I should probably back up. My name's Tyler, and I'm a wildlife surveyor for the Bureau of Land Management. Boring job title for what's mostly hiking around the desert with a clipboard, counting sage grouse and checking fence lines. The work keeps me outdoors, keeps me moving, and after my divorce, it was exactly the kind of quiet I needed. No drama, no complications, just me and the wide open nothing of northern Arizona. My brother Ethan tagged along that October. He'd just finished his EMT certification and had 2 weeks before starting at a hospital in Flagstaff. He wanted one last camping trip, just the two of us, like when we were kids. I'd been surveying a remote stretch of the Painted Desert near the Navajo Nation boundary. A lot of BLM land out there, not much else. Perfect for some brother bonding and terrible freeze-dried meals. We'd set up camp on October 19th at the base of a mesa about 40 miles north of Winslow. The area was empty. I mean truly empty. No cell service, no roads, just dust and scrub brush, and these bizarre hoodoo rock formations that looked like giant fingers clawing up from the earth. Ethan loved it, said it felt like another planet. First day was normal. We hiked about 8 miles, doing transect surveys, marking GPS coordinates, taking soil samples, standard stuff. Ethan complained about his boots the whole time, brand new Merrell hikers that hadn't broken in yet. By the time we got back to camp, his heels were hamburger. I gave him moleskin patches and told him to stay off his feet. That night we made a fire, ate our sad little foil packet dinners, and Ethan told me about this girl he'd met during his clinical rotations, Sarah. He was smitten, kept pulling up her Instagram photos even though we had no service. He'd saved them offline just to look at. I gave him shit about it, but honestly, it was nice seeing him happy. Our family hadn't had a lot of happy in recent years. Around 9 p.m. I noticed the silence. Not regular silence, oppressive silence. The kind where you suddenly realize you haven't heard a single cricket or coyote or even wind for the past hour. The fire crackled and popped, but beyond that, nothing. Like the desert was holding its breath. Ethan noticed too. He stopped mid-sentence about Sarah and looked around, frowning. "That's weird," he said. "What?" "Listen." We sat there listening to absolutely nothing. Even the fire seemed quieter, like it was trying not to draw attention. The hair on my arms stood up, and I didn't know why. "Probably just the weather," I said, but I didn't believe it. The sky was clear, stars so bright they hurt to look at. No storm coming, no reason for animals to hunker down. Ethan laughed it off, said I was getting paranoid in my old age. I'm 32, and went back to talking about Sarah. But I couldn't shake the feeling. Something felt wrong. The desert doesn't go quiet like that unless there's a reason. Around 10:30, Ethan said he needed to piss and walked off toward the scrub line about 50 yards from camp. Took his headlamp, but I watched the light bounce away into the darkness until it disappeared behind a cluster of junipers. I sat by the fire, feeding in mesquite branches and trying to ignore the crawling sensation on the back of my neck. My Glock 20 was in my tent. I always carried in the back country, mostly for mountain lions, but I felt stupid getting it just because the night was quiet. What was I gonna do? Shoot the silence? 5 minutes passed. Then 10. "Ethan," I called out. Nothing. "Yo, you fall in?" Still nothing. Now I was getting annoyed. I stood up, grabbed my own headlamp, and walked toward where he'd gone. The beam cut through the darkness, illuminating creosote bushes and volcanic rock, but no sign of my brother. "Ethan, this isn't funny, man." I walked further, sweeping my light back and forth. His boot prints were clear in the dust, leading away from camp in a straight line. And they just stopped. Not like he'd turned around or climbed on a rock. They ended mid-stride. Both prints pointed forward, and then nothing. My heart started hammering. I spun in a circle, scanning with the headlamp, calling his name. The silence swallowed my voice like it was never there. No echo, no nothing. That's when I heard the whistling. It was coming from back toward camp, a tune I recognized. Harvest Moon by Neil Young, Ethan's favorite song. Our dad used to play it on road trips when we were kids. I felt a flood of relief. He must have circled back while I was looking for him. I probably thought it was hilarious to mess with me. I jogged back toward camp, ready to punch him in the arm for being a dick. But when I got to the fire, he wasn't there. The whistling continued, coming from the opposite side now, past my tent. I turned, confused. Ethan? The whistling stopped. Then I heard his voice, clear as day, coming from the darkness beyond the firelight. Tyler, help me. Every instinct I had screamed wrong. His voice sounded right, but also off. Like someone doing a really good impression, but not quite nailing the inflection. And Ethan wouldn't just stand out there in the dark asking for help. He'd come into the light, especially if something was wrong. Where are you? I called, not moving from the fire. I'm hurt. I twisted my ankle. Can't walk. I'm over here by the big rocks. There were no big rocks in that direction. Just open desert for 100 yards. Come into the light, I said. I can't see you. Silence. Long enough that I thought maybe I'd imagined the whole thing. Then his voice again. Closer now, maybe 20 feet away. Come help me, Tyler. It really hurts. I backed toward my tent, not taking my eyes off the darkness. Something was moving out there. I could see it just beyond the reach of the firelight. A shape, man-sized, swaying slightly like it was testing the boundary. Ethan, if that's you, step into the light right now. The shape stopped moving, then it spoke in Ethan's voice, but wrong. The words were stretched, the vowels too long. Why won't you help me, brother? I dove into my tent, grabbed the Glock, chambered around. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped it. When I came back out, the shape was gone. Just darkness and the sound of my own breathing. I kept the gun up, scanning the perimeter, every shadow suddenly a threat. Minutes passed, like hours. The fire crackled. Nothing moved. Then I heard footsteps behind me. I spun, nearly firing, and there was Ethan. Actually Ethan this time, walking out of the darkness from the direction he'd originally gone, holding his pants up with one hand and looking confused. Whoa, whoa! He threw his hands up, eyes wide. What the hell, man? I lowered the gun, adrenaline making me dizzy. Where were you? Taking a shit, Jesus. Why are you pointing a gun at me? He looked normal, sounded normal, but I just heard his voice coming from the opposite direction, and his footprints had disappeared, and... Did you come back to camp, I asked? Like 5 minutes ago? No. I've been squatting behind a rock this whole time. Bad shrimp from lunch, I think. He rubbed his stomach, grimacing. Seriously, why do you look like you've seen a ghost? I didn't know how to explain it. How do you tell someone you heard them asking for help when they were 50 yards away shitting in the desert? I just shook my head, said I thought I saw a mountain lion. He bought it. We sat by the fire, and I watched him, looking for anything wrong, any sign that this wasn't really my brother. He seemed fine. Talked about Sarah, complained about his stomach, eventually crawled into his tent around midnight. I stayed up, feeding the fire, gun in my lap. I didn't sleep. Around 3 a.m. I heard the whistling again. Same song. Harvest Moon. Coming from Ethan's tent. I stood up slowly, every nerve on fire. The whistling continued. Perfect pitch. Exact melody. I walked toward his tent, boots crunching on gravel too loud in the silence. Ethan? The whistling stopped. Then his voice, muffled through the nylon. Yeah? You okay? Fine. Why? Were you just whistling? Pause. Longer than it should have been. No, I was asleep. I stood there, heart pounding, staring at the tent. The zipper was closed from the inside. I could see the outline of his sleeping bag, the shape of him lying there. Everything normal, except I'd just heard him whistling. Go back to sleep, Tyler, his voice said. You're hearing things. I backed away from the tent, gun up again, and sat by the fire. I didn't take my eyes off his tent for the rest of the night. Around 5 a.m., first light started creeping across the desert. The oppressive silence broke suddenly. Birds started calling. Insects buzzed. Normal sounds returning like someone had flipped a switch. Ethan unzipped his tent at 6, stretching and yawning, looking well rested and normal. I felt insane. Maybe I had been hearing things. Stress, lack of sleep, too much time alone in my head. People don't just get copied by... What was I even thinking it was? Let's pack up early, I said. Get back to the truck. We've got 2 more survey points, Ethan protested. That's the whole reason we're out here. I don't care. Something feels wrong. He gave me a look like I was losing it, but didn't argue. We ate protein bars, packed our gear, and started hiking back northeast toward where I'd left my F-150. 6 miles across open desert, easy terrain. Should have taken 3 hours. 2 miles in, Ethan stopped walking. Hey, Tyler? Yeah? Do you ever think about when Mom died? I froze. We never talked about Mom. She'd killed herself when I was 17. Ethan was 14. Drove her car into a reservoir with a belly full of sleeping pills. It destroyed our family. Dad never recovered. Ethan and I had an unspoken agreement that we just didn't go there. Why are you bringing that up? I asked carefully. He was facing away from me, shoulders hunched, head down. I just wonder sometimes if she knew, what it would do to us. Ethan, let's keep moving. Do you think she's watching us? Like right now? The way he said it made my skin crawl. Not sad, not emotional, curious, clinical, like he was testing the words. We need to go, I said firmly. Now, he turned around and smiled at me. Normal Ethan smile, but the timing was wrong. You don't smile, talking about your dead mother. Sure thing, brother, he said cheerfully. Lead the way. We walked in silence after that. I kept him in front of me, watched the way he moved. Everything seemed normal. His gait, his backpack, the way he adjusted his hat against the sun. But something felt wrong and I couldn't pin it down. Around noon we stopped for water in the shade of a rock outcropping. Ethan pulled out his phone, looked at it, then laughed. Still no service. Sarah's probably wondering where I am. You can call her when we get back. Yeah. He stared at the phone, smiling that wrong smile again. Hey, Tyler. What does Sarah look like? My blood went cold. What? Sarah, what does she look like? I can't remember. He'd spent 3 hours last night showing me pictures of her, talking about her eyes, her laugh, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was nervous. And now he couldn't remember what she looked like. I stood up slowly, hand moving toward my hip where the Glock was holstered. Describe her to me, he said, still smiling. I want to hear you say it. We're leaving. Get up. Come on, Tyler. Just describe her. Humor me. Get up. He stood, but the movement was wrong. Too smooth. Too fluid. Like he was being pulled upright by strings. His head tilted at an angle that was just slightly too far, studying me. What's wrong, brother? He asked in Ethan's voice. You look scared. I drew the Glock, aimed, center mass. Who are you? He laughed. It sounded like Ethan's laugh run through a broken speaker, crackling and distorted at the edges. I'm your brother, he said. See? He held out his arms, gesturing at himself, and he was right. He looked exactly like Ethan. Same face, same clothes, same scar on his chin from when he fell off his bike at age 9. Perfect copy. Except Ethan would never forget Sarah's face. "Where is he?" I demanded. "Where's my brother?" The thing wearing Ethan's face stopped smiling. The expression dropped so suddenly it was like watching a mask fall off. What was underneath was blank, not cruel or monstrous, just empty. "Observing. He's close," it said in a voice that was no longer trying to sound human. Flat, emotionless, coming from somewhere behind its teeth. "We needed to see if you could tell the difference." "Most can't." "Most what?" "What are you?" It tilted its head the other way, bird-like and wrong. "You're smarter than him, more careful." "That's interesting." It took a step toward me. He just followed the sounds, walked right to us. So trusting. I fired. The shot caught it high in the shoulder, jerking it backward. No blood, no reaction. It looked down at the hole in its shirt, then back at me, and smiled with too many teeth. "That's not going to help," it said. Then it charged. I fired 3 more rounds as it closed the distance, each shot hitting center mass, and it didn't slow down. It slammed into me, and we went down hard, my head cracking against rock. The gun flew from my hand. I rolled, gasping, tasting blood, and scrambled to my feet. It stood up slowly, those wrong eyes locked on me. The bullet holes were visible in its chest, but there was nothing inside them, just darkness, like looking into a deep hole. "Run," it said in Ethan's voice. "We like it when they run." I ran. I don't know how long I ran or what direction. The desert blurred around me, rock and brush and endless sky. I could hear it behind me, not running, walking, keeping pace effortlessly. Sometimes it would call out in Ethan's voice, asking me to wait, asking why I was leaving him. My lungs burned. My legs screamed. I didn't stop. Then I saw them. 3 figures standing on a ridge ahead, silhouetted against the sun. One of them was Ethan, the real Ethan. I could tell by the way he stood, favoring his right leg, hands on his hips. The other 2 were Navajo men, older, wearing jeans and button-up shirts. "Ethan!" I screamed, sprinting toward them. They didn't move, just watched me come. When I got to the base of the ridge, I collapsed, heaving, looking back. The thing that had been chasing me was gone, just empty desert. "Tyler!" Ethan scrambled down, grabbing my shoulders. "What the hell, man? Where did you go?" "I woke up and you were gone, and all our gear was scattered and what happened?" I couldn't speak, just pointed back the way I'd come, gasping for air. One of the Navajo men climbed down, squatting next to me. He was in his 60s, weathered face, kind eyes. "You saw it," he said, not a question. I nodded. "Did it touch you?" "No. I shot it." "It didn't." "Good. If it touches skin to skin, it can take everything. Memories, voice, mannerisms, everything. It was still learning you." He looked at Ethan. "You're lucky. It took your brother's image but hadn't finished taking his essence. That's why you could tell the difference." "What the fuck are you talking about?" Ethan looked between us, terrified and confused. "Tyler, what happened?" The Navajo man stood, helping me up. "We were checking fence lines and saw your camp, saw the tracks around it, knew what was happening, so we waited here." He pointed at the ridge. "This is the boundary. They don't cross it." "They?" I asked. "Skinwalkers. Not the Hollywood kind. The real ones. They've been in this area for generations. We try to keep people away, but you were on BLM land, technically legal to camp." He shook his head. "Should have had warning signs, but bureaucracy moves slow." The other man spoke up. "Younger, maybe 40. The one that took your image. It'll wear it for a while. Few days maybe. Then it'll get bored and move on. But you need to leave. Now. Don't come back to this area." "What about our gear?" Ethan asked. "Gone. Forget it." We'll walk you to your truck, but then you drive and don't stop until you're 100 miles from here." They did exactly that. Walked us 5 miles to my F-150, waited while we got in, and watched us drive away. In the rearview mirror, I saw them standing on the empty road, not moving, until they disappeared into heat shimmer. Ethan and I didn't talk for the first hour. Finally, he spoke. Voice small. "I woke up in the dark, away from camp. I don't remember walking there. There were others around me. I could hear them moving. Then the sun came up and those two men were there telling me to stay still, don't move, don't make a sound." He looked at me. "Tyler, what was that thing?" "I don't know," I lied, "but it's gone now." We drove straight to Flagstaff. Ethan started his EMT job the following week. He doesn't do camping anymore. Neither do I. I requested a transfer to desk work, less pay, but I don't care. Can't make me go back out there. The thing that bothers me most happened about a month later. I was at the grocery store in Phoenix and ran into an old coworker from BLM, a guy named Ray. We chatted for a few minutes, catching up, and as I was leaving, he said something that made my blood turn to ice. "Hey, didn't I see you up near the Painted Desert last month? Around Halloween?" "No," I said. "I was in Flagstaff." "Really? Could have sworn I saw you on Highway 160, just standing on the side of the road." He laughed. "Guess you got a doppelganger." I went home and checked my phone. Found a voicemail from an unknown number, left at 2:30 a.m. on October 23rd. I hadn't noticed it before. I almost deleted it without listening. I wish I had. It was my voice on the recording. My exact voice. And all it said was, "We're still learning you, Tyler. See you soon." I changed my number the next day. Moved to Tucson a month after that. I don't go anywhere alone anymore if I can help it. And if I ever hear my own voice calling to me from somewhere, I'm not standing. I'm running, and I'm not looking back. If you're ever out in the desert and something doesn't feel right, the silence is too heavy, the animals go quiet, and you hear your own voice calling from the darkness, don't try to figure it out. Don't investigate. Just leave. Get in your car. Drive until the sun comes up, and don't ever go back. Some things out there are older than we understand, older than reason, and they're very, very good at wearing faces that used to belong to someone else. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong about a person, you know, even if they look perfect, sound perfect, there's probably a reason. And whatever you do, don't let it touch you. If this story made you think twice about that weird feeling you can't quite explain, hit that like button and drop a comment below. Subscribe if you want more true stories from places most people won't talk about. There's more out there than we want to admit, and sometimes the best survival tool is just knowing when to run. Stay safe out there. The thing that used to be my friend Derek was still chewing when I found him in the snow. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Jordan, and I've been hunting elk in the Sawtooth Mountains of Idaho for 15 years. I know those woods like the back of my hand. Every ridge, every creek bed, every game trail. It's not just a hobby, it's how I fill my freezer for winter. Elk meat lasts my family from November through April if we're careful with portions. In this economy, that's not just tradition, it's survival. Derek was my hunting partner, going on 7 years. We met at a gun range outside of Stanley, got to talking about public land access, and realized we had similar approaches to hunting. Methodical, patient, ethical. He was a machinist at a fabrication shop in Boise, drove up every season with his old Tacoma and enough gear to outfit an Arctic expedition. Good guy, reliable. The kind of friend who'd help you move a body if you needed it. Not that I ever did, but you know what I mean. The season opener was November 4th that year, 2023. We'd drawn tags for Unit 37, prime elk territory up near the Sawtooth Wilderness boundary. The forecast called for early snow, which was perfect. Fresh powder meant fresh tracks, and elk moved lower in elevation when storms hit. We planned for a week-long backcountry hunt, packing in about 9 miles to a drainage we'd scouted the previous spring. We started the hike in on November 3rd, just after sunrise. Temperature was already down to 28 degrees, sky the color of old bruises. Derek was in good spirits, joking about finally getting his first 6-point bull, talking about the new smoker he'd bought specifically for elk backstrap. His pack was loaded heavy. Tent, sleeping bag rated to -10, 5 days of freeze-dried meals, water filter, the works. Mine was the same. We'd done this enough times to know what we needed. The trail was in good shape for the first 5 miles, following Redfish Creek through lodgepole pine and Douglas fir. Then we left the maintained path and started bushwhacking northeast toward the drainage. Harder going, steep terrain, but we made good time. By 3 p.m. we'd reached the spot we wanted, a small clearing near a spring, sheltered by rock walls on 2 sides. Good wind protection, water access, and overlooking a meadow where we'd seen elk sign in spring. We set up camp efficiently. 2 separate tents, communal fire pit, bear hang for food. Derek strung up his game bags preemptively, already confident. I gave him shit about jinxing us. He just laughed. That first night was cold, but clear. We ate chili mac from foil packets, drank terrible instant coffee, and watched stars so bright they seemed close enough to touch. The woods were alive with normal sounds. Wind in the pines. A great horned owl calling from somewhere east. The distant bugle of a bull elk. Music to a hunter's ears. "Tomorrow morning," Derek said, staring into the fire. "I can feel it. We're going to get into them." "Your optimism is embarrassing," I replied, but I felt it too. Something in the air, that electric anticipation that comes before a successful hunt. We turned in around 9. I fell asleep to the sound of wind and the creak of pines swaying. I woke up at 2:17 a.m. to absolute silence. Not peaceful silence. Wrong silence. The kind that makes your lizard brain start screaming before your conscious mind catches up. No wind. No owls. No distant elk. Just nothing. I lay in my sleeping bag, listening to my own heartbeat, trying to figure out what woke me. Then I heard it. Footsteps in the snow outside my tent. Slow, deliberate, circling the clearing. Something big, moving on 2 legs. I could hear the crunch of each step, the weight of it. My first thought was bear, but bears don't walk upright for that long, and it was too cold. Bears should have been denning already. The footsteps stopped right outside my tent. I didn't breathe, didn't move, just lay there in the darkness, staring at the tent wall 6 inches from my face. I could see a shadow through the nylon, backlit by starlight. Tall, maybe 7 feet, too tall to be human. The shadow leaned closer, and I swear to God I heard sniffing. Long, deep inhalations, like something was trying to smell me through the fabric. Then it moved away. The footsteps continued around the clearing, past Derek's tent, toward the spring. I heard the sound of something drinking, loud, slobbering, going on for at least a minute. Then the footsteps moved off into the woods and faded. I waited another 20 minutes before unzipping my sleeping bag, grabbed my headlamp and my .300 Win Mag, chambered around as quietly as possible, and peeked outside. The clearing looked normal. Our fire had burned down to coals. Derek's tent was zipped up, undisturbed, but in the snow around my tent, tracks. I've seen a lot of animal tracks in my life. Bear, moose, mountain lion, wolf. These were none of those. They were vaguely human-shaped, but huge, at least 18 inches long and 6 wide. The toes were elongated, clawed, and the stride length was impossible. 6 feet between prints. Whatever made them was tall and moving fast despite the deliberate pace I'd heard. I went to Derek's tent, whispered his name. He unzipped, groggy and annoyed. What? Something was in camp. Look at these tracks. He came out with his flashlight, stared at the prints for a long moment, then looked at me. What the hell is that? No idea, but it was right outside my tent. We spent the next hour sitting by the fire, rifles across our laps, scanning the tree line. Nothing moved. Nothing made a sound. As dawn started breaking around 6 a.m., the normal sounds returned. Birds, wind, the world waking up. The oppressive silence lifted like someone had released a pressure valve. Probably just a big black bear, Derek said, but he didn't sound convinced. Walking upright to get a better smell. Bears don't have tracks like that. Maybe it was deformed, injured. That would explain the weird gait. I wanted to believe him. We'd invested too much time and money into this hunt to fail because of strange tracks. And in daylight, it was easy to rationalize. Just an animal. Nothing supernatural. We were being paranoid. We made coffee, ate oatmeal, and started glassing the meadow for elk. By 8 a.m., we'd spotted a small herd about a mile north. 4 cows and a spike bull. Not what we were hoping for, but a good sign. We packed light day packs and headed out. The hunting was good. We moved slowly, checking wind, staying quiet. By noon, we'd gotten within 200 yards of the herd. The spike bull was legal but small. We decided to pass and look for something bigger. We backed out carefully and continued north, following a ridgeline. That's when Derek started acting strange. We'd stopped for lunch around 1 p.m., sitting on a flat rock with a view of the valley below. I was eating a protein bar when I noticed Derek wasn't eating. He was just staring at his trail mix, holding the bag, not moving. "You okay?" I asked. He didn't answer for a few seconds, then quietly, "I'm so hungry." "So eat." "No. I mean really hungry. Like I can't remember the last time I ate. We had oatmeal this morning." He looked at me, and something was off in his eyes. Distant, glassy. "Did we?" "Derek, are you feeling alright? Did you hit your head or something?" He blinked, shook his head like he was clearing cobwebs. Yeah, I'm fine." Just spaced out for a second. He ate his trail mix, drank some water, and we kept moving. But I kept an eye on him. He seemed okay, but there was something different. He kept touching his stomach, rubbing it, like he was trying to settle his gut. We hunted until 4 p.m. without seeing any more elk. The temperature was dropping fast, clouds moving in. We decided to head back to camp before weather hit. On the way back, Derek stopped walking several times, just standing there, staring at nothing. Each time, I'd call his name, and he'd snap out of it, apologize, keep moving. By the time we got back to camp, it was almost dark and starting to snow, big, heavy flakes that stuck to everything. We got a fire going, and I made dinner, freeze-dried beef stroganoff. Not great, but hot and filling. Derek ate his portion mechanically, not talking, then asked if I had more. "You want seconds?" "I'm still hungry." I gave him another packet. He ate that too, and then asked for a third. "Dude, that's like 1,800 calories. You're gonna make yourself sick." I'm so fucking hungry, Jordan. I don't know what's wrong with me." His voice had this edge to it, almost panicked. I gave him another meal. He ate it in under a minute, barely chewing, and then just sat there, staring at the fire with this hollow look. "Maybe you're coming down with something," I suggested. "Tapeworm, some kind of parasite. Maybe." We sat in silence. The snow kept falling. Around 8 p.m., Derek stood up abruptly. "I'm gonna go to bed. Maybe sleep it off." "You sure you're okay?" "Yeah, just tired." He went to his tent, zipped himself in. I stayed by the fire another hour, feeding it, watching the snow accumulate. That wrong silence was creeping back, the woods going quiet again. I didn't like it. I finally turned in around 9:30. triple-checked that my rifle was loaded and next to my sleeping bag, and tried to sleep. The wind had picked up, howling through the pines, making the tent walls flutter. Under that sound, I kept thinking. I heard other things. Footsteps, voices, movement in the darkness. Around midnight, I woke to screaming. It was coming from Derek's tent. Raw, agonized, screaming that made my blood freeze. I grabbed my rifle and headlamp, stumbled outside into the snow. His tent was thrashing, the whole structure jerking violently like something was convulsing inside. Derek, the screaming stopped. The tent went still. Then I heard sobbing, quiet, broken, terrible. Derek, I'm coming in. No, don't. Please don't look at me. His voice was wrong. Wet, distorted, like he was talking through a mouthful of something. I unzipped his tent anyway. The smell hit me first. Copper and shit, and something else. Something rotten. My headlamp beam swept across the interior and I saw him. Derek was curled in the corner of his tent, naked from the waist up. His skin had this grayish tint, stretched too tight over his ribs, but that wasn't the worst part. His hands were covered in blood, his mouth was covered in blood, and there were bite marks all over his arms, his chest, his stomach. Chunks of flesh were missing, ragged wounds still bleeding, and I could see the marks of human teeth in his skin. He'd been eating himself. Oh Jesus Christ, Derek, what did you... I'm so hungry, he whispered, and when he looked up at me, his eyes were yellow, jaundiced, milky, not human anymore. Jordan, I'm so fucking hungry, and I can't stop, and it doesn't help. It doesn't help. He started crying again, and then he lunged at his own arm and bit down. I heard the crunch of teeth breaking through skin, saw fresh blood pour down his elbow, and I ran. I ran back to my tent, grabbed my pack, grabbed everything I could in 30 seconds, and I ran into the woods. And behind me, I could hear the wet sounds of feeding, hear him whimpering, crying, and eating at the same time. I didn't stop running until I collapsed in the snow about 2 miles away. My lungs burned. My legs were rubber. I was losing it, hyperventilating, trying to process what I'd just seen. Derek had been eating himself. My friend, my hunting partner, had been consuming his own flesh like he was starving. And those eyes, those yellow, dead eyes, I knew what it was then. My grandfather had told me stories when I was young. Old stories from his Shoshone grandmother. Stories about the Wendigo, the hunger that walks. A curse that came to people who got too hungry, too desperate, who crossed a line they could never come back from. Once it took you, you were never satisfied. You'd eat everything around you and then you'd start eating yourself, and you'd never stop. You'd just keep getting hungrier. But those were just stories, legends to scare kids. Except I'd just seen proof. I needed to get help. Get out of the mountains, call the authorities, get Derek to a hospital. Maybe it was just some kind of psychotic break, some parasite making him crazy. Maybe modern medicine could fix it. I checked my GPS. 9 miles to the trailhead. I had my headlamp, my rifle, my emergency beacon. I could make it by dawn if I pushed hard. I started hiking. The snow was getting heavier, visibility down to maybe 20 feet. I followed my GPS bearing, moving as fast as I dared. Every shadow made me flinch. Every sound made me spin around. I kept expecting to see Derek emerge from the darkness, that hollow look in his yellow eyes reaching for me. Around 4 a.m. I heard it, movement in the trees to my left, paralleling my path, keeping pace. I stopped. It stopped. I started walking. It started walking. My heart was hammering. I brought my rifle up, scanning with my headlamp, but I couldn't see anything through the snow and trees. Then Derek's voice called out from the darkness. Jordan, wait up. I'm sorry. Please wait. It sounded like him, but the tone was flat, empty, like someone reading lines phonetically without understanding the words. Derek, is that you? So hungry, Jordan. So hungry. Do you have any food? Please. The voice was moving, circling me, getting closer. Derek, I'm getting you help. Just stay where you are. Help. Yes. Help me, Jordan. Come here. Let me. The voice cut off into this horrible clicking sound, like teeth chattering, but too fast, too rhythmic, not human. I ran again. This time, I heard it chasing, crashing through the underbrush, moving impossibly fast, getting closer. I could hear breathing, ragged, wet, rattling breaths, mixed with that clicking sound. A tree branch exploded to my right, showering me with splinters. Something had hit it, hard. I fired my rifle blindly behind me. The muzzle flashed, lighting up the forest for a split second. In that brief light, I saw it. It wasn't Derek anymore. It was something wearing Derek's skin, like a costume that didn't fit right. Too tall, too thin, limbs too long, joints bending in wrong directions. The face was Derek's face, but stretched, the mouth opening way too wide, full of teeth that were too sharp and too many, and those yellow eyes that weren't just jaundiced, they were glowing. The light faded, and it shrieked, this high-pitched, inhuman sound that made my ears ring. Then the crashing sounds got louder, faster, and I knew it was coming. I saw a light ahead, artificial light, the trailhead parking lot. I've never run faster in my life. My legs felt like they were going to snap, my lungs were on fire, but I sprinted toward those lights like they were the gates of heaven. Behind me, the thing that used to be Derek was gaining. I could hear it, feel it, practically feel its breath on my neck. I burst out of the tree line into the parking lot, and there was a Forest Service truck parked near the trailhead sign. A ranger was sitting inside drinking coffee, and he nearly dropped it when he saw me stumble into his headlights. I collapsed against his hood, gasping, trying to speak. He got out, asking if I was okay, if I needed medical attention. Something in the woods, my friend. I turned to point back at the trailhead, but there was nothing there. Just darkness and falling snow. No sounds, no movement. The ranger called for backup. Within an hour, there were 3 more trucks, a sheriff's deputy, and a search and rescue coordinator. I told them what happened, most of it. I left out the supernatural stuff, just said Derek had some kind of psychotic episode and attacked himself, and something chased me out of the woods. They found our camp the next day. Derek's tent was destroyed, covered in blood, but no body, just tracks. Those same impossible tracks I'd seen the first night, leading away from camp and deeper into the mountains. They searched for a week and never found him. Derek was declared missing, presumed dead. His family held a memorial service that December. I went, shook hands, said he was a good man. His mom hugged me and cried and thanked me for being his friend. I haven't been able to hunt since. Haven't been back to the sawtooths. Hell, I can barely stand being in the woods anymore. Every shadow looks like Derek. Every branch snapping sounds like footsteps. The Forest Service officially blamed his disappearance on a fall or bear attack, case closed. But I know the truth. Something out there took my friend, turned him into something else, and it's still out there, still hungry. If you're ever in the backcountry and you start feeling hungry, really hungry that doesn't make sense, hungry that doesn't go away, no matter how much you eat, get out. Don't wait. Don't rationalize. Just leave the woods immediately and get to a hospital. And if you're hunting with someone and they start acting strange, complaining about hunger, eating more than they should, watch them. Because once that hunger really takes hold, they won't be your friend anymore. They'll just be hungry, and you'll be food. Some old stories exist for a reason. The Wendigo isn't just folklore, it's a warning about what happens when hunger becomes something more than physical, when it becomes a curse that consumes everything, including yourself. If this story made you check over your shoulder, hit that like button and drop a comment about your own experiences in the backcountry. Subscribe for more true encounters from places where old things still walk. Not everything that's hungry wants food. Some things just want to consume. Stay safe out there, and never ignore that voice in your head telling you something's wrong. Because sometimes that voice is the only thing keeping you alive. The thing standing in my headlights had a dog's head and a man's body, and it was smart enough to try the door handle. Let me back up and explain how I ended up on that road in the first place. My name's Austin, and I work as a pharmaceutical sales rep covering the upper Midwest. It's a lot of driving. Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan, sometimes Iowa. I'm on the road 3 weeks out of every month, staying in budget hotels, eating truck stop food, and putting ungodly miles on my Chevy Malibu. Not glamorous, but it pays the bills and I like the solitude. 5 years of doing this and I'd seen pretty much everything. Deer jumping in front of cars, drunk drivers, cops running, radar traps, the occasional crazy hitchhiker. What I saw on November 12th, 2022, near Traverse City, Michigan, that was something else entirely. I'd spent the day making calls at medical offices around Cadillac, and I was running late getting back to my hotel in Traverse City. The most direct route was County Road 612, a 2-lane blacktop that cut through the Manistee National Forest. Locals called it the back way, and most people avoided it at night. Not because of anything supernatural, just because it was dark, winding, and hit or miss for cell service. But I'd driven it dozens of times, and it shaved 20 minutes off the trip. So at 8 p.m. on a cold Tuesday night, I took it. The weather was clear, temperature around 30 degrees. My headlights cut through darkness so complete it felt like driving through a tunnel. The road was bordered by dense pine and hardwood forest on both sides, occasionally broken by the driveway of some isolated cabin or hunting camp. No streetlights, no other cars. Just me, the radio playing classic rock, and mile after mile of empty road. Around 8:45, maybe 9 miles from where the county road intersected with Highway 31, I saw something in the road ahead. At first, I thought it was a deer. I slowed down, tapping my brakes, expecting it to bolt. But as I got closer, my headlights illuminated it fully, and I realized it wasn't a deer. It was a dog. A big dog. German Shepherd sized, maybe bigger, standing broadside in the middle of my lane. Dark fur, thick build. It turned its head to look at me, and I saw eye shine. That reflective glow you get from animal eyes at night. Yellow-green, bright as LEDs. I came to a complete stop about 30 feet away, waiting for it to move. It didn't. Just stood there, staring at me. I tapped my horn. Nothing. The dog didn't even flinch. "Come on, buddy," I muttered, honking again. "Get out of the road." The dog took a step toward my car, then another. It was walking deliberately, purposefully, head lowered slightly like it was stalking something. The way it moved was wrong. Too smooth. Too controlled. Dogs don't walk like that. I started backing up, keeping my eyes on it. The dog matched my speed, following me, closing the distance. My heart rate kicked up a notch. This wasn't normal behavior. Feral dogs ran from cars. Aggressive dogs barked and lunged. This thing was hunting. I stopped backing up and shifted into drive, planning to go around it. There was just enough shoulder room to squeeze past if I was careful. But as I started to ease forward, the dog moved to block me. It stayed centered in my lane, adjusting its position to stay directly in front of my car. It was herding me, That's when I knew something was deeply wrong. I put the car in reverse again and accelerated harder, tires crunching on gravel as I backed up maybe 50 yards. The dog followed, still walking, still staring. Then it did something that made my stomach drop. It stood up, not like a dog rearing up on its hind legs. It stood up like a person stands up, smoothly, naturally, rising to its full height on two legs, like that was the most normal thing in the world. And it was tall, at least 6.5 feet, maybe 7. The body was wrong for a dog. Too human-shaped, too muscular, arms too long with hands that weren't paws, but the head was pure canine, wolf-like, massive jaws, pointed ears, and those eyes still locked on me. I stopped breathing. The thing stood there in my headlights, perfectly balanced on two legs, and tilted its head like it was studying me. Then it started walking toward my car again, not on all fours, walking upright like a man. I slammed the car into drive and floored it, cranking the wheel hard to go around it. The Malibu fishtailed on the loose gravel, tires screaming, and I shot past the thing with maybe 2 feet of clearance. In my rearview mirror, I saw it turn to watch me go, still standing upright, not reacting. I was doing 70 on a road with a 45-mile-per-hour speed limit, hands white-knuckled on the steering wheel, checking my mirrors every 2 seconds. Nothing behind me, just empty road. I started to let myself believe I'd gotten away. Then I came around a curve and it was standing in the road again. I slammed on the brakes, the ABS juddering, and skidded to a stop maybe 10 feet from it. There was no way, no possible way it could have gotten ahead of me. I'd been going 70. It had been behind me. But there it was, standing upright in the middle of the road, head cocked, watching me with those glowing eyes. "What the fuck?" I whispered. "What the fuck? What the fuck?" I threw the car in reverse again, but before I could move, the thing dropped to all fours and charged. It covered the distance in seconds, impossibly fast, and slammed into the front of my car. The impact was massive. I felt the whole vehicle rock backward, heard the crunch of the bumper crumpling. Then it was on my hood. I saw it clearly through the windshield. The head was wolf-like but larger, jaws that could swallow a basketball, teeth like steak knives. The body was wrong. Muscular and humanoid, with fur covering everything. The hands had fingers, actual fingers with claws instead of nails. And the eyes, those eyes were looking at me with intelligence. Not animal awareness, human intelligence. It reached forward with one clawed hand and grabbed my windshield wiper, ripped it clean off, and tossed it aside like it was a toy. Then it leaned down, putting its face inches from the glass, and I saw its breath fog the windshield. It was studying me. I couldn't move, couldn't think, just sat there frozen while this thing decided what to do with me. Then it slid off the hood, dropped to the ground, and walked around to my driver's side door. I heard the sound of the door handle being tried, not scratched at, not pawed at. The handle was being deliberately pulled, the mechanism clicking as something tried to figure out how it worked. I looked down and saw its hand wrapped around the handle, fingers working it, testing it. That broke my paralysis. I slammed my palm on the door lock button, heard all 4 locks engage with a solid thunk. The thing paused, then tried the handle again. When it didn't open, it made a sound. Low, rumbling, almost like a growl but deeper, resonant. It vibrated through the car frame. Then it stood up again, looked down at me through the window, and with one clawed finger, tapped on the glass. 3 deliberate taps, not aggressive, almost polite. I stared up at it, too terrified to even scream. It tapped again, 3 more times. Then it pointed at me, then at itself, then made a gesture I couldn't interpret. Its mouth opened slightly, and I saw row after row of teeth, but it wasn't snarling. It was trying to communicate. My phone was in the center console, moving as slowly as possible. I reached for it, keeping my eyes on the thing outside my window. No signal, no bars. I was completely alone. The creature watched me try my phone, and then tapped the glass again, this time harder. The window cracked, not shattered, just a small spiderweb of fractures spreading from where it touched. It could break through any time it wanted. It was choosing not to. Why? It made that rumbling sound again, then turned its head toward the forest. Its ears pricked up, swiveling like satellite dishes. It heard something I couldn't hear. Then it looked back at me, and I swear to God it shook its head. A human gesture, a warning. Then it was gone. Just bounded off the road in one leap and vanished into the trees so fast I barely tracked the movement. I sat there, engine still running, hands shaking so bad I could barely grip the steering wheel. The night was silent except for my car's idling engine and my own ragged breathing. I looked at the cracked window, the missing wiper, the dented hood, proof that what just happened was real. I needed to move, needed to get out of there before it came back. I put the car in drive and accelerated slowly, scanning the tree line. Nothing, just darkness. I drove 5 miles before I saw headlights coming toward me. Another car, the first one I'd seen in 30 minutes. I nearly cried with relief. As we passed each other, I checked my rear view mirror. The other car's taillights continued on, normal, uninterrupted. Had they seen anything? Did that thing let them pass? I made it to Highway 31, got back into civilization with streetlights and gas stations and other people. I pulled into a speedway, parked under the brightest lights I could find, and just sat there for 20 minutes trying to process what happened. A dog that walked like a man, that was smart enough to try door handles, that chose not to break my window even though it clearly could have, that tried to communicate. I called the police from the gas station, told them some of it, said a large animal had attacked my car on County Road 612, caused damage, and I wanted to file a report for insurance purposes. The dispatcher sounded bored, asked if I was injured, and when I said no, told me I could file a report online or come to the station during business hours. I drove to my hotel, checked in, and went straight to my room. I didn't sleep that night, just sat by the window with the lights on, jumping at every sound, expecting to see that thing's face looking in at me. The next day, I took my car to a body shop. The damage was extensive. Crushed front bumper, dented hood, cracked windshield, missing wiper. The mechanic asked what I hit. Deer. I lied. He gave me a skeptical look. Must have been one hell of a deer. I got a rental car and finished my sales route, but my heart wasn't in it. I kept thinking about that thing. The intelligence in its eyes, the way it moved, the fact that it could have killed me easily but chose not to. A week later, I was back home in Illinois, trying to convince myself it had been some kind of mass hallucination or fever dream. Maybe I'd been drugged. Maybe I had carbon monoxide poisoning. Anything to explain it rationally. Then I got a call from a Michigan area code I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Is this Austin? A man's voice, older, gruff. Yeah, who's this? My name's Bill Carmichael. I'm a retired DNR officer up in Benzie County. I heard through some mutual acquaintances that you had an encounter on County Road 612. My blood went cold. I don't know what you're talking about. Son, I've been tracking these things for 30 years. You filed a police report about animal damage to your vehicle. That report crossed my desk because I asked to be notified about any incidents on that particular stretch of road. He paused. You saw a dog man, didn't you? I didn't answer. Couldn't answer. It's okay, he continued. You're not crazy. And you're not the first. That road? Hell. That whole region has had sightings going back to the 1800s. Native tribes knew about them long before that. They called them different names, but it's the same thing. Something that's part wolf, part man, and smarter than both. What are they? I finally asked. Damned if I know. DNR officially denies they exist, but I've seen one myself. 1994, during a deer survey. Watched one bring down a buck with its bare hands, snap its neck clean, and then look right at me. We stared at each other for maybe 15 seconds, and then it picked up the deer and walked off into the woods, on two legs, carrying a 200-pound animal like it weighed nothing. Why didn't it attack you? Same reason it didn't attack you. They're not mindless predators. They're selective, calculated. From what I've been able to piece together over the years, they only go after people who threaten them directly or who stumble into their territory at the wrong time. Mostly they avoid humans, but when they do interact, he trailed off. Let's just say you're lucky. It tried to open my car door. I know, that's what they do. They test things, figure out how they work. I've heard reports of them opening cabin doors, truck tailgates, coolers, even combination locks. They learn by watching. Why are you telling me this? Because you need to know you're not alone. And because I need to tell you something important. His voice got serious. Don't go back to that road. Ever. You survived one encounter because it was curious. If you go back, it'll see you as a threat. And then curiosity becomes aggression. I don't plan on going back. Good. And one more thing. If you ever see one again, anywhere, don't run. They're faster than you. Don't fight. They're stronger. Just stand your ground. Don't make eye contact. And back away slowly. Show submission, but not fear. They respect strength. How do you know all this? Trial and error. Lots of errors. He gave a bitter laugh. Stay safe, Austin. And if you ever need to talk to someone who believes you, you've got my number now. He hung up before I could ask anything else. I looked up dogman sightings online that night. Found hundreds of reports from Michigan, Wisconsin, and the surrounding states. Encounters going back decades. Descriptions matching what I saw. Bipedal canines. Intelligent. Aggressive, but selective. Some people claimed they were werewolves. Others said they were undiscovered species. A few thought they were interdimensional beings. I don't know what they are. I just know they're real. I requested a territory transfer at work 6 months later. Now I cover the Southwest, Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada. No forests, lots of open desert. I can see for miles in every direction. If something's coming, I'll see it long before it reaches me. I still drive at night sometimes, still take back roads, but never through forests, never through dense woods where something could be watching from the tree line. And I always check my rearview mirror. The thing that bothers me most isn't that it existed, it's that it chose to let me live. That implies judgment, decision making. That means it looked at me, assessed me, and decided I wasn't worth killing. What happens if I run into one again and it makes a different decision? If you're ever driving through rural Michigan, Wisconsin, or the upper Midwest late at night and you see something in the road that looks like a large dog, don't stop. Don't slow down unless you absolutely have to. And for God's sake, keep your doors locked. Because some things out there are smart enough to know how handles work. And if something taps on your window in the middle of nowhere, do not open it. Do not engage. Just drive. Drive until you hit civilization and lights and people. Because once it decides you're interesting, there's no guarantee it'll stay curious instead of hungry. The security camera showed 2 white legs with no body walking across my property. But that's not the part that scared me. My name's Grant, and I run a small organic farm outside of Fresno, California. 20 acres of vegetables, few fruit trees, some chickens. It's not a big operation, but it keeps me busy and pays the mortgage. I live alone in a farmhouse my grandfather built in 1953, about 2 miles from the nearest neighbor. Privacy was one of the selling points when I bought the place 5 years ago. After the divorce, I wanted space. Quiet, no drama. The problem started in late September of 2023. I'd been losing produce, not a lot at first. So, a few tomatoes here, some squash there. I chalked it up to raccoons or possums, normal farm stuff. But by early October, I was losing entire rows overnight. 20 pounds of tomatoes, a dozen cantaloupes, half my pepper crop. Whatever was taking them wasn't eating on site. They were hauling the produce away wholesale. I set up motion-activated lights around the garden. Didn't help. Whatever it was either avoided them or didn't care. I tried putting up scarecrows, hanging pie tins that would clatter in the wind, even playing talk radio from a battery-powered speaker all night. Nothing worked. My neighbor, old Frank Delaney, suggested I get security cameras. He'd had good luck deterring thieves with them. So on October 7th, I drove into Fresno and bought a 4-camera wireless system from Home Depot. Spent the afternoon mounting them at strategic points around the property. One covering the front gate, one on the barn, one pointed at the chicken coop, and one overlooking the main garden area. The cameras fed to an app on my phone and stored footage in the cloud. I could watch live or review recordings. Pretty straightforward tech. I felt like I'd finally get some answers about what was raiding my crops. That first night, I checked the app around 11 p.m. before bed. Nothing unusual, just empty fields lit by moonlight, the occasional moth fluttering past the camera. I went to sleep feeling confident I'd catch the culprit within a few days. My phone woke me at 3:14 a.m. with a motion alert from the garden camera. I grabbed my phone, groggy and annoyed, and opened the app. The live feed showed my garden in infrared mode, everything washed in shades of gray and white. At first, I didn't see anything. Then I noticed movement near the tomato plants. Something was walking through my garden. I squinted at the screen, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. It looked like legs, just legs, 2 pale white legs, walking upright, no body above them. They moved with a smooth, gliding gait, each step deliberate and careful. The legs were thin, almost stick-like, but the knees bent normally and the feet touched the ground naturally. I rubbed my eyes, thinking I was still half asleep and seeing things wrong. But when I looked again, they were still there. 2 pairs of legs now, moving between the rows of plants. Walking, just walking. No torso, no arms, no head. Just legs from the waist down, moving independently like they belonged to invisible people. What the hell? I muttered, fully awake now. I watched for maybe 30 seconds as they harvested, I guess. The legs would stop at a plant, pause, and then move on. I couldn't see how they were picking the produce without hands, but when they walked away from an area, I could see the plants had been stripped. Tomatoes gone, peppers gone, everything taken. I grabbed my shotgun from the closet and my flashlight, threw on boots, and headed outside. The garden was about 100 yards from the house. I moved quickly, trying to stay quiet, the shotgun loaded with birdshot in case they were aggressive. When I got to the garden, there was nothing there. I swept my flashlight across the rows. Half the tomato plants were bare, peppers missing, a whole section of squash gone, but no sign of the leg things, no footprints in the dirt. And that was weird because the irrigation had left the soil soft. I should have seen tracks. There was nothing. I stood there in my pajama pants and boots, holding the shotgun, feeling ridiculous. Maybe it was some kind of camera glitch, weird compression artifacts or something. I walked back to the house, checked the recorded footage on my phone. There they were, clear as day. 2 sets of walking legs, pale white, moving through my garden. The timestamp showed they'd been there for approximately 4 minutes before I came outside. The footage showed them walking out of frame toward the tree line just as I was approaching from the house. They must have heard me coming. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. Just sat at my kitchen table, watching and rewatching the footage, trying to make sense of it. By dawn, I'd convinced myself it had to be some kind of hoax. Someone in white stilts and a black bodysuit, using the infrared camera limitations to create an optical illusion. But that didn't explain the missing produce or the lack of footprints. I called Frank Delaney around 8 a.m., asked if he'd ever seen anything weird on his property at night. He laughed, said the weirdest thing he'd seen was a coyote trying to mate with his German Shepherd through the fence. I didn't mention the footage. Didn't want him to think I was losing it. I spent that day reinforcing my fence, adding chicken wire to the bottom to keep out smaller animals, and setting up additional motion lights. I also mounted a trail camera near the tree line where the leg things had disappeared. If they came back, I'd have multiple angles. They came back that night at 2:58 a.m. The motion alert woke me again. This time I watched the live feed instead of rushing outside. There were 3 of them now. 3 sets of legs, pale, white, thin, moving in a coordinated way through the garden. They weren't taking produce this time. They were just walking, patrolling maybe, moving between the rows like they were searching for something. I zoomed in as much as the app would allow. The legs had no visible texture. They were smooth, almost luminescent. The knees bent normally, but there was something off about the proportions. The upper legs were slightly too long, the feet slightly too small, and there was definitely nothing above the waist. Just legs ending at the hip line in a flat, featureless surface. One of them stopped directly in front of the garden camera. It stood there motionless for maybe 10 seconds. Then it turned, rotating in place, like it was looking around, even though it had no head. It faced the camera directly, and I felt a chill run down my spine. It knew the camera was there. It was looking at it, at me. The other 2 joined it, all 3 lined up facing the camera. They stood perfectly still, and in the infrared feed they glowed slightly, their pale surfaces reflecting the IR light. They looked like ghosts, or puppets, or something else entirely. Then they walked toward the camera. Not quickly, not threateningly, just a steady, purposeful walk directly at the lens. They got closer, filling more of the frame, until all I could see were 3 sets of legs, and then they passed directly underneath the camera and out of view. I switched to the barn camera feed, and they were there, walking across the driveway toward the house, toward me. My heart started hammering. I grabbed the shotgun again, checked that it was loaded, and moved to the living room window. I killed the interior lights so I could see outside better. The motion lights had triggered, illuminating the driveway in harsh white light. Nothing there. The lights were on, but the driveway was empty. I checked my phone. The barn camera feed showed them walking off screen toward the house 20 seconds ago. They should be visible through my window right now, but there was nothing. Then I heard it. Footsteps on my porch. Light, careful footsteps. Multiple sets. Walking back and forth across the wooden planks like they were pacing. I stood frozen in my living room, shotgun pointed at the front door, watching the handle. The footsteps continued, slow, methodical. Then they stopped directly in front of the door. Silence. I waited, barely breathing. 30 seconds passed. A minute. Nothing. Then something tapped on the door. 3 soft knocks. Perfectly spaced. Not aggressive. Almost polite. "Who's there?" I called out, voice shakier than I wanted. No answer. Just another 3 knocks. Same rhythm. Same gentle pressure. I wasn't opening that door. No chance in hell. I moved to the window instead, peeking around the curtain to see the porch. The motion light was still on, illuminating everything clearly. The porch was empty, but the doorknob was turning. I watched it rotate slowly, testing, like someone was trying it carefully to see if it was locked. It was locked. I checked twice before bed. The knob turned as far as it could, met resistance, and then turned back. Then it tried again and again. Patient, methodical testing. "Get the fuck away from my house," I shouted. The doorknob stopped moving. The footsteps resumed, walking away from the door, across the porch, down the steps. I rushed to the window, looked out, and saw them. 3 sets of legs, pale white, walking away from my house, across the front yard. They moved toward the tree line and disappeared into the darkness beyond the range of the motion lights. I didn't sleep that night either. Sat in my living room with all the lights on, shotgun across my lap, jumping at every creak and settling sound the old house made. At dawn, I reviewed all the camera footage. The trail camera by the tree line had captured them entering and leaving. They came from the forest, crossed my property, investigated the house, and returned to the forest. The whole visit lasted maybe 20 minutes. But there was something else on the trail cam footage. After the 3 legs walked out of frame toward the forest, the camera picked up something else moving in the background. Something much larger, staying in the shadows. I couldn't make out details, just a massive shape, vaguely humanoid, watching from the trees. It stayed there for approximately 3 minutes after the legs left, then moved deeper into the forest. Whatever those leg things were, they weren't alone. I called the Fresno County Sheriff's Office that morning, told them I had trespassers on my property, caught on camera. The deputy came out around noon, looked at the footage on my phone, and got very quiet. "Have you posted this anywhere online?" he asked. "No." "Why? Keep it that way." He looked uncomfortable. "Mr. Grant, I'm going to be straight with you. There have been reports from this area going back years. People seeing things that don't make sense. Things that look like this." He gestured at my phone. "What are they?" "We don't know. Fish and Game doesn't know. Hell, half the department thinks it's an ongoing prank by some tech-savvy kids with projectors or something. But we've had 7 similar reports in the past 2 years alone, all in this area, all describing the same thing. Pale white legs, no body, walking around at night. And what are you doing about it?" He shifted his weight, looking embarrassed. "Nothing. Officially. There's no crime being committed. No one's been hurt. Property damage is minimal. And frankly, no one knows what to do about something that might not even be physically real. They tried my door handle. That's physically real. I know. I'm just telling you what the official position is." He handed me a card. "If they come back and you feel threatened, call 911. We'll send someone out. But in the meantime, keep your doors locked, keep your cameras running, and consider staying somewhere else for a few nights." He left, and I stood in my driveway feeling completely helpless. I'd bought this place to get away from problems, and now I had something supernatural testing my doorknobs at night. I called my ex-wife that afternoon. We didn't talk much since the divorce, but she'd always been practical-minded. I figured she'd either tell me I was crazy or give me useful advice. I explained the situation, sent her the footage. She was quiet for a long time after watching it. Then she said, "Grant, I've seen something like this before." "What?" When I was a kid, growing up in Yosemite Valley, my dad worked for the Park Service. He had stories about the night crawlers. That's what the rangers called them. Said they'd been reported around Yosemite and Fresno for decades, maybe longer. Native tribes knew about them. Called them different names, but same description. Walking legs, with no bodies. Did anyone know what they were? No. Dad said most rangers thought they were interdimensional or something, not fully physical. They'd show up on cameras, but not always in person. They'd leave no tracks. They never hurt anyone, but they'd take things. Food, shiny objects, tools, like they were studying us. Why didn't you tell me this before? Because I thought they were just stories. Dad told a lot of stories. But that footage you sent, that's exactly what he described. She gave me some advice. Don't antagonize them. Don't try to capture them or communicate. Just make it clear the property is occupied and defended, and eventually they'd move on. Most importantly, don't go into the forest after them. Whatever was out there in the shadows, the thing I'd seen on my trail cam, that was what I really needed to avoid. I stayed in the house that night, armed, alert. They came back at 3:06 a.m. 4 of them this time. They walked through the garden, approached the house, stood in front of the door for several minutes, then left. The same pattern. Testing. Learning. This happened 3 more nights in a row. Each time more of them. By the 5th night, there were 7 sets of legs walking around my property. They'd stopped taking produce. They were just present, walking circuits around the house, pausing at windows, trying doorknobs. I was losing my mind, not sleeping, barely eating, jumping at every sound. On the 6th night, I decided I'd had enough. When the motion alert went off at 2:53 a.m., I grabbed my shotgun and went outside. They were in the driveway. 8 sets of legs formed into a rough circle, just standing there. When I came out, they all turned toward me in unison. "Get off my property!" I shouted, chambering around for effect. They didn't move, just stood there, oriented toward me. I could feel attention from them, even though they had no eyes. They were aware of me, focused on me. "I will shoot." I raised the shotgun. 1 set of legs broke from the group and walked toward me. Slowly, non-threateningly. It stopped about 10 feet away. We stayed like that for maybe 30 seconds, me pointing a gun at a pair of legs that had no vital organs to hit. Then it took 1 step back, then another. It was retreating. The other 7 joined it, all backing away in unison, moving toward the tree line. They disappeared into the darkness, and this time they didn't come back that night. They didn't come back the next night either, or the night after that. A week passed with no motion alerts, no missing produce, no footsteps on my porch. They were gone, but I still see them sometimes in the distance, walking along the edge of the forest at dusk, moving between trees, never coming close to the house anymore, but always there, always watching. I thought about selling the property, moving somewhere else, but where would I go? According to my ex-wife's dad, these things are all over this region, and besides, they're not trying to hurt me. They're just curious, studying, maybe trying to understand us the same way we're trying to understand them. I've learned to live with it, keep my doors locked, keep my cameras running, and most importantly, I never go into the forest at night, because whatever those leg things are, they're just the scouts, the thing in the shadows, the thing on my trail cam. That's what I'm really afraid of. The night crawlers are strange, but they're not dangerous. It's what they report back to that keeps me up at night. If you live in Central California, especially near Fresno or Yosemite, and you see something white walking through your yard at night that doesn't make sense, don't panic. Lock your doors, stay inside, and let them do whatever they're doing. They'll move on eventually, but whatever you do, don't follow them into the forest. Don't try to find out where they come from. Some questions are better left unanswered, some things are better left alone, and some mysteries are only mysteries because we're not ready for the truth. If this story made you check your security cameras, hit that like button and share any weird footage you've captured. Subscribe for more encounters with things that shouldn't exist, but somehow do. The world is stranger than we admit, and sometimes the best thing we can do is just accept that strangeness and live alongside it. Stay safe, stay inside at night, and trust your instincts when something feels wrong. Because sometimes the things walking through your yard aren't from around here, and sometimes that's okay, as long as you let them pass. I woke up because something was breathing on my face, and the pale, hairless thing doing it looked almost human. Let me explain how I got to that moment. My name's Kyle, and I'm a software engineer working remotely from a rental house outside of Portland, Maine. I moved there in August of 2023 after landing a fully remote position with a tech company in Boston. The house was perfect for my needs. 3 bedrooms, 1 for sleeping, 1 for my office, 1 for storage. Quiet neighborhood, good internet, affordable rent. The landlord mentioned it had been vacant for 8 months before I moved in, but I figured that was just the rental market being slow. I'm a heavy sleeper, always have been. My ex-girlfriend used to joke that a marching band could parade through the bedroom and I wouldn't notice. So when I started waking up in the middle of the night for no apparent reason, I knew something was wrong. It started the second week of September. I'd wake up around 3 or 4 a.m. feeling off. Not sick, not anxious, just wrong. Like my subconscious was trying to tell me something my conscious mind hadn't figured out yet. I'd lie there in the dark, heart beating slightly faster than normal, scanning the room for whatever triggered the wake-up. Nothing. Just my bedroom, same as always. Dark furniture, closed curtains, the red glow of my alarm clock. After the 5th night of this, I started keeping a baseball bat next to the bed. Felt stupid doing it, but it helped me get back to sleep. Probably just adjusting to a new house, new sounds, new environment. That's what I told myself. The scratching started on September 23rd. I woke up at 3:17 a.m. to the sound of something scratching at my bedroom window. Slow, deliberate scratches, like fingernails on glass. I grabbed the bat and went to the window, pulled back the curtain. Nothing there. Just my backyard, empty and dark. The security light from my neighbor's house casting long shadows across the grass. But there were marks on the window, fresh scratches in the glass, 4 parallel lines about 6 inches long, deep enough to catch the light. Something with claws had been there. I checked every window and door in the house. Everything was locked. No signs of forced entry. I went back to bed, but didn't sleep, just lay there listening, waiting for the scratching to start again. It didn't. The next morning I examined the scratches in daylight. They were real, not something I'd imagined. Too high to be from a cat, wrong pattern for a bird. I called my landlord, told him I might have a raccoon problem. He said he'd send someone to check for entry points in the attic and crawl space. The maintenance guy came out 2 days later, spent 3 hours going over the house. No signs of animals. No droppings, no nests, no holes in the soffits or foundation. He looked at the window scratches and got quiet. "You see anything make these?" he asked. "No. Heard something, but didn't see it." He nodded slowly. "Previous tenant. She complained about noises too. Scratching, footsteps. Landlord thought she was just trying to break the lease early." He looked uncomfortable. "She left in the middle of the night, didn't even take all her stuff, just packed a bag and drove away. Why didn't anyone tell me this?" He shrugged. "Not really the kind of thing you put in a rental listing, and nothing ever showed up on camera or anything concrete. Figured it was just, her imagination." After he left, I did what any reasonable person would do in 2023. I googled the address plus words like haunted, death, murder, accident. Nothing came up. Then I searched for the previous tenant's name. The landlord had mentioned it in passing, Sarah Gilman. Found her on Facebook, sent a message asking about her experience at the house. She responded within an hour. "Get out. Get out now. Don't stay there another night." It comes in while you're sleeping. I woke up and it was standing over my bed just staring at me. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't human. Please don't stay there. I stared at that message for a long time. Part of me wanted to dismiss it as the rambling of someone with mental health issues, but another part, the part that had been waking me up at 3 a.m. for 2 weeks, that part believed her. I decided to set up cameras. If something was getting into the house, I'd catch it on video. I ordered a 4-camera system from Amazon, had it delivered next day, and spent an evening mounting cameras in the hallway outside my bedroom. One pointed at the front door, one at the back door, and one in my bedroom itself pointed at the window. That night I went to bed with every light in the house on except my bedroom. The cameras were recording. My phone was on the nightstand with the security app open. The baseball bat was within reach. I felt ridiculous and paranoid, but I also felt prepared. I woke up at 3:32 a.m. Not because of a sound, not because of movement. I woke up because something was breathing on my face. Warm, humid breath, rhythmic, close. So close I could feel it on my skin. I opened my eyes. It was crouched on my bed, straddling my chest, inches from my face. Pale, hairless, humanoid but wrong in every proportion. The arms were too long, hanging down past where knees would be. The fingers were elongated, tipped with black claws. The legs were bent at wrong angles, knees pointing outward, and the face was almost human. Almost. Too wide, too flat, eyes too large and too far apart, completely black with no visible pupils. No nose, just 2 slits. The mouth was closed, but I could see the outline of too many teeth behind the thin lips. It was staring at me, just staring, not moving, not making a sound except for that breathing. I couldn't move, couldn't scream, couldn't even blink. Pure animal terror had locked every muscle in my body. We stared at each other, me and this thing, for what felt like hours, but was probably only seconds. Then it tilted its head, a curious gesture, bird-like. It leaned closer, those black eyes studying my face, and made a sound, soft, wet, almost like a purr, but deeper. It opened its mouth slightly, and I saw rows of needle teeth, yellowed and sharp. That broke my paralysis. I screamed and shoved at it, hard as I could. My hands touched its skin, and it was cold, dry, like touching a corpse. The thing recoiled, jerking backward with a hissing sound, and scrambled off the bed. It moved wrong, joints bending in directions they shouldn't, limbs moving too fast, skittering across the floor like a spider. It reached the corner of the room and froze, pressed against the wall, head swiveling to keep its eyes on me. I grabbed the bat, fumbled for the lamp, got the light on. The thing hissed again, louder, and launched itself at the window. It didn't open the window. It went through it. Glass exploded outward. The thing hit the ground outside, and I heard it running. No, not running. Galloping. Moving on all fours, at a speed nothing human could match. Within seconds, the sound faded. I sat on my bed, covered in cold sweat, holding the bat in shaking hands. The window was destroyed, glass everywhere, cool night air pouring in. I looked around the room and saw scratches, fresh scratches on the wall near where it had been crouched. 4 parallel lines, just like on the window. It had been in here before, multiple times. Those scratches were tally marks. I checked my phone. The security app showed all 4 cameras recording. I opened the bedroom camera footage and scrubbed backward. At 3:14 a.m., 18 minutes before I woke up, my bedroom door slowly opened. The thing crawled in on all fours, moving with that horrible spider-like gait. It approached the bed, climbed up with disturbing ease, and crouched over me. For 18 minutes it just crouched there, watching me sleep, breathing on my face, occasionally tilting its head like it was, trying to understand what I was. At 3:32, I started to stir, probably subconsciously registering the breath on my face, and that's when I woke up. I watched the footage 3 times, feeling sick. This thing had been in my house, in my room, on my bed, multiple times. Every night I'd been waking up around 3 a.m. It had probably been there, watching, studying me. I grabbed my laptop and sent the footage to Sarah Gilman. She responded immediately, even though it was 4 a.m. That's it. That's what I saw. What the fuck is that thing? I don't know. I'm leaving. Good. Don't come back. I looked into the house history after I left. 3 tenants before me, all left within 3 months. All reported the same thing. Scratching, waking up, feeling watched, seeing something pale in the house. One guy tried to stay and fight it. They found him in the woods behind the house. He'd run out there in the middle of the night and died of exposure, hypothermia. But the autopsy showed scratches all over his body, deep ones. I packed a bag in under 10 minutes, grabbed my laptop, phone, charger, wallet, and keys. I was out of that house by 4:30 a.m., driving to a hotel in downtown Portland. I didn't care about the lease, the security deposit, any of it. I just needed to be away from there. At the hotel, I filed a police report, showed them the footage. They took it seriously, more seriously than I expected. The officer who took my statement asked if I'd heard of the rake. I said no. It's an urban legend, internet creepypasta stuff. But he looked uncomfortable. We've had reports, not many, maybe a dozen in the past 5 years. People claiming to see something that matches that description. Pale, humanoid, crawls on all fours, usually around wooded areas. Most reports we dismiss as hoaxes or people on drugs, but your footage, that's the clearest documentation we've seen. What is it? No idea. Fish and Wildlife says it's not any known animal. Some people think it's a person with medical conditions, others think it's something else entirely. He handed me his card. If you see it again, call immediately. And don't go back to that house alone. I never went back at all. Told the landlord I was breaking the lease due to unsafe conditions, sent him the footage as evidence. He tried to argue, but his lawyer probably told him to drop it because he stopped calling after a few days. I hired movers to pack up my stuff and put it in storage. I found a new place in South Portland, a 4th-floor apartment in a secured building. No ground level access, no windows opening to the outside. I sleep with my bedroom door locked and a chair wedged under the handle. Probably overkill, but I don't care. The scratching started again 2 weeks ago, not at my apartment, at my parents' house in New Hampshire. I'd gone down for the weekend to visit them. Stayed in my old childhood bedroom. Woke up at 3:20 a.m. to scratching at the window. My bedroom at their house is on the 2nd floor. I didn't open the curtain, didn't look outside, just grabbed my keys and left. Drove back to Portland at 3:30 in the morning. Told my parents I had a work emergency. I haven't told them the truth. How do you explain something like this without sounding insane? I've been researching the rake online. There are hundreds of reports going back years, different states, different countries. The descriptions are always similar. Pale humanoid, long limbs, crawls on all fours, watches people sleep. Some people say it kills, others say it just watches. No one knows what it wants or where it comes from. What bothers me most is this. It found me in Portland, then it found me at my parents' house 100 miles away. It's not tied to a location, it's tied to me. It picked me for some reason, and now it's following. I don't know what it wants. I don't know how to make it stop. I just know that eventually I'm going to wake up and it's going to be there again, crouched over me, breathing on my face. And I don't know if it'll just watch this time or if it'll do something else. If you ever wake up in the middle of the night for no reason, check the corners of your room, check under your bed, check the shadows, because if something is watching you sleep, you need to know. Don't ignore that feeling. Don't convince yourself it's nothing. And if you see something pale and hairless crawling through your house, don't try to fight it. Don't try to communicate. Just leave. Get out immediately and don't come back. It doesn't matter if it's your home, your apartment, your parents' house. Just go. Some things can't be explained or understood. Some things just are. And some things, once they notice you, never stop watching. I still sleep with lights on. Still check every corner before bed. Still wake up at 3 a.m. sometimes, heart pounding, checking to make sure I'm alone. Most nights I am, but not all nights. If this story made you check your bedroom corners, hit that like button and share your own experiences with unexplained visitors in the comments. Subscribe for more real encounters that'll make you sleep with the lights on. Sometimes the things that go bump in the night are real, and sometimes they're patient enough to watch you sleep for hours before you notice them. Stay alert, trust your instincts, and never ignore that feeling that something's wrong. Because sometimes you're not alone, and sometimes the thing sharing your space has been there a lot longer than you realize.